Okay, hi Michael. I'm just going to go through quickly some of the analysis that we can see on this video, and it's great because we can slow it down to kind of 5% of your actual speed, so it allows us to see exactly what you're doing a lot better than when we're looking at the side, and obviously we can see under the water as well. So this will just give you a few more ideas in terms of visually what it is that you're doing. So you've just pushed off. So we're going to watch you from a side view now. So your head's going to break the surface in a moment. Here we go. Nice long push off. Okay, so you're breaking the surface. Okay, so you see the body comes right up, head's quite high actually. Arms coming over. We watch here. So actually that's quite good. The fingertips are going in before the elbow, potentially going in thumb first rather than middle finger first with the palm down. So your hands are slightly sideways, but that's not the end of the world. So you can see there, so you've got your hand thumb down, palm facing out. Now the issue with doing that is that you can end up getting shoulder injuries as you swing in and then get your catch. So you do need to be aware of that, and I would try and recommend that you go in middle finger first, palm down if at all possible. But what you see on that side is the arm's quite extended before it goes in. Right, taking our breath. Okay, now this is the first breath you've taken, so I don't want to read too much into that, but obviously what we really want in terms of the breathing is one goggle in the water and one goggle out of the water, but we'll have a look to see if that sort of continues as a pattern or whether it's a one-off. Okay, so coming back in. So again, oh, here we go. Okay, so the arm comes over, and it's slightly more extended than the other one when it goes in, so you're almost at full extension there before the hand goes in. Have a look at this one. Whereas this hand, you come in, you're crossing over a little bit there, I would think. Okay, and what we see here is as you take your breath, your head is really high. So I would put money on the fact that we can see your whole face coming out of the water there. So we spoke about going in a bit of a sharper angle. And the reason for that is you don't want to go in fully extended. You want to kind of get that catch as soon as you go in by extending into it. So you see how the elbow drops, and it kind of just drops flat rather than following the hand spearing through. So if we were spearing deeper, the elbow could follow. Right, now I think we should have a breath coming up soon. Have a look. Okay, now I would say that breath is coming too late, and that's why you're getting your whole head out of the water. So if we look back at that, you're actually putting your arm in before you're turning the head, whereas actually what I would say is that as the arm comes over, your head turns to breathe. So essentially you're turning away from the arm, whereas on this one your arm is in before your head starts to turn. So you see arm goes in, right in, right in, right in, and then the head turns. So you've got to lift your head basically to get that bow wave. Whereas if you breathed a little bit earlier, you would find that you don't need to. So if we keep going, so that breathing action is a fraction of a second late. Right, so we come under the water now, we look at this body position. Now that's a really, really good picture in terms of what we spoke about in terms of that deeper hand entry. So your hand is currently almost in a straight line from your shoulder in terms of height in the water. What that will be doing is making this arch in your back, which then drops your legs. So you end up with this kind of situation, and then you're having to really sort of kick up. If we managed to enter more here, what you would get is potentially more of that position. You'd be a straighter position. So this hand entry here would bring the back end up. So let's have a little look how we go through. So arms quite straight, and then it presses down, and you can see you've got some rotation there. And again, you see here with the right hand, there's no depth to that. So what I would want to see is you spearing kind of to here, and you're spearing straight ahead. And then you see what the hand does. It presses down, and that would say to me that from a front angle, we probably need to work on that catch a little bit more. But that will help if we get the entry point slightly different. Okay, so if we move on through the swim, you can see, just go back actually to that. That was quite a good shot. Okay, so I'm going to breathe in a second and we'll see what happens underwater as you take your breath. So this arm's going to come over. So we see here the hand has entered. Now the head starts to turn, and you're pushing down on that arm, and the head's still out of the water. So your head's still out of the water and your arm is quite low. So you're basically pressing down with that arm in order to get the bow wave, because we're slightly breathing in the wrong position. So if we move through, come back the other way. See again, we see this body position. We're seeing this big scissor kick, and the kick is from the knees, which is really typical for a triathlete. So there's nothing to sort of worry about there. But what we do see is that knee disappearing out of the picture there, but that is a really big bent knee. So we want to engage the glutes here to pull that leg out straighter so we don't get that bend. Now some of that bend is coming from the front end of the arms, so we have some, I reckon when we look from the over the top, we're going to have some crossover, and if we've got the crossover at the front, that tends to make the knee kick out and bend to stabilise in a kind of scissor motion. So I keep swimming, and I would say as you take your breath, we would expect to see more of a knee bend. Okay, so here we go. So your arm comes in, head starting to breathe, and you see there that leg is trying to stabilise the whole body. Okay, so we could do with working on kind of doing quite a bit of pull buoy work so that you take the legs out of the equation, but actually doing some torpedo type leg kick stuff with fins to try and get rid of that leg bend. Right, we're going to go on to the over the top angle now, and let's have a look at what's going on with these arms. Okay, ready. So you've pushed off. And you can see from the top those legs really do bend quite a lot. Well, that might be your fly kick actually. I'll let you off. But we're very much knee driven rather than glute and hip driven. Okay, so I want you to watch this front end now. So what we're looking for is where the hand enters. So the hand comes over, over, over. Okay, and we can see already that that hand is bending round past the centre line. So if we were to have an ideal position for the hand to enter, it would be directly in front of the shoulder. And what we see is that the hand is actually swinging across in front of the centre line. So the centre line is kind of there. And as you swing across the centre line, then what you get is this stabilisation from the leg to try and kind of kick yourself into a straight position, keep that kind of form. So let's have a look at the other arm. Let's see what happens here when we breathe. So the arm then swings out while you breathe, pushing down, pushing down. You see that back leg's gone really kicking out. And we see the right arm, not quite as much of a crossover there. There's still a little bit of crossover, but really not as extreme. So that right arm doing a little bit more when it's meant to. And then you're pushing down, it would appear quite straight with that arm, not really grabbing the water. So you see again, you get that snaking as your arm swings round and across the centre line. So really want to think about sort of swimming in a Y shape, sort of as wide as you dare. Okay, so we'll have a little look at the front of the stroke now. Try and get to the right point. Okay, so we're pushing off, and hopefully there won't be too many bubbles. You can see, okay, so you're pushing off. Okay, nice streamline position. Nice thigh kicks, I think. See that you're exhaling. Okay, now we're going to watch you take your first stroke. So the left hand comes down, and what we see is that arm is quite straight and it doesn't bend till quite far down. Okay, watch this second arm now. Here we go. So that arm again, it's straight, 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 straight. And what really we want to be pretending there is that we're like over a barrel. So we're getting that 100-degree entry. Now you can see on that left arm the way that it swings across the centre line, then it has to swing out, so it swings all the way out. It's kind of doing a question mark shape, and actually what we want the hand to do is pull in a straight line, levering from the elbow. The angle of the elbow should be about 110 degrees. Again, you see that arm straight, 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 straight. So that crossover You can see it right over the centre line, and then it swings out, out, out in a nice arc, and then it bends. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to try and find a picture that shows you what angle. Okay, so what I want to just show you now is what Becky Adlington looks like. Okay, so that's the position actually that we want, whereas actually what you're doing is swinging across the centre line, round with a straight arm into kind of like a question mark shape, and then eventually you're getting into that position that Becky's in. And there's another one here of Becky. So she comes in, so this top picture here, she comes in, she gets hold of the water. You can see there's that bend in her elbow almost straight away, and she continues to push back, so her hand doesn't really change position, it just, the body moves over the hand, and then that's her sort of ultimate position, which you do get into, but you don't get into it until you're quite a lot further back. So in terms of the analysis for you, the stuff that we kind of need to work on are starting with the if we start with how you're spearing in. So I want you to think about spearing in a little bit deeper and extending forwards and down as if you had like a cardboard box and you were extending down to the far bottom corner of the box, and that's your kind of line of entry. That in turn should lift your hips and your legs up a little bit. Potentially have a bit of a play around with the head position. You don't want that to be too high. But once you've come in for got the hands in, we then need to look at kind of exactly where they're entering, and you're still crossing over that centre line, so you need to think about entering in a Y shape so that actually your arms are going in front of the shoulders or slightly wider in your head, rather than crossing over the centre line. Once the hand's in the water, then it's about keeping that high elbow and imagining that you're kind of levering yourself over a barrel into our Becky Adlington position here. In terms of the breathing, most of the time I could see sort of reasonable exhalation, so that was good. But looking then at the legs, one of the things you might want to look at is just thinking about kicking the legs a little bit less, and trying not to work so hard from the knee, and thinking about engaging the glutes and the hips. But my personal view is if we tidy up the front end like we've been working on, the back end will kind of sort out itself. Any questions, do get back in touch, and I shall see you soon.